That was the original pilot. I had known Gene Roddenberry from The Lieutenant, a Marine show that he had created and I had directed some of. And when it came time for his Star Trek pilot, he asked me to do it. And I read the script and I was doubtful. And a little disdain is great. To fall blindly in love with material is not as great as having a holdout corner of disdain. Objectivity is the result. So I read the script and I thought, this is just a palette of science fiction. Everything in science fiction that I knew of was dragged into this pilot. The beautiful young woman who's really an old hag and, etc. All the chestnuts were in the pilot. And I read it and I remember talking to my wife about it and saying, this thing is too nuts. It's just crazy. I don't know whether to do this, being young and pure. And she said, why don't you do it? So I did. And I really got in behind it and did all the stuff that was in the script. I remember there was some chicken, there was some fowl that was a killer fowl being locked in some cell somewhere. And I'm talking to this stuntman. I mean, it's crazy. Me talking to this Janos Prohaska, Hungarian or something stuntman. Janos, okay, that's good, baby. Now try the, and it's this big chicken, this killer chicken, or some equivalent. I mean, it was nuts. NBC saw the show, and they said, I guess verbatim, somebody told me this, we like it, we want it, we don't understand it, do it again. I think that was the NBC reaction. And that original pilot, as we know, had Jeff Hunter in it as the main character. And as it was reformed and redone, I guess someone decided that Jeff Hunter was a little too ideal for this particular science fiction piece. And as you remember, he played Jesus Christ and was a very handsome, pristine kind of guy. And I remember, too, wanting to rough up the sets, which Gene didn't want to do. So I suspect that the combination of the clean, pristine sets and Jeff Hunter contributed to this dazzle at NBC. So they redid it. Jimmy Goldstone directed the second pilot with Shatner, and then Gene shelved the first pilot and wrote it as history, Enterprise history, and what had happened with the craft and the previous commander and all that stuff. That's about the extent of what I know the truth to be, and what the Trekkies think, how they think it worked, I don't know. But in the marketplace, NBC just said, yeah, but do it again and let's save this one or burn it or whatever they decided. And then Gene and his good entrepreneurship decided to use that film later. He called me and asked me if I wanted to direct the material around it so it would be a full 2 hours by me. And I said, no, thanks, I've been there, good luck. And Mark Daniels did the subsequent surrounding material. So I think Mark and I shared directorial credit on it. Or maybe we decided he would take a credit on the first hour and I would take a credit on the second, or something. I remember trying to get him to change the title of Star Trek. I didn't like Star Trek. It seemed pretentious to me, and though it wasn't my place to do that, I just knew him and thought I would do him a favor by giving him a better title. But, he proved to be certainly righter than I was. I also tried very hard to get him to roughen up everything, as though it had been on a few missions, and there was, some shrapnel holes, figuratively, not literally, but some wear, some rust, God, I don't know, something. He didn't want that. And I ground my teeth and, so be it. I don't get it, Steve. I'm sure some sociologist would have a theory about that, but I don't get it. To me, it's too preposterous, it's too clean, and it's too wordy. Now, Twilight Zone was preposterous and wordy, but it was in black and white. It was a half an hour. I don't know. Those are about the same size, aren't they, in our television history? Twilight Zone and Star Trek. And I can get Twilight Zone because they're just good yarns, but I don't honestly get Star Trek. There's so much heroics. I mean, it's so, but people love it. I'm not going to argue with that. But for my taste, it seems too square-jawed, too heroic. I don't know. I'm mystified.